Hey everybody, I'm Trudy, One Grounded Angel, reading some angel cards for you for the week starting the 5th of July through to the 11th of July 2021. So we'll shuffle the cards now and see what's going to come up. We do have a new moon happening this weekend, Saturday the 10th, or overnight Friday the 9th if you're in the US. And that is in the sign of Cancer. Remember, the new moon always happens in the sign where the sun is, and we are in the sun season of Cancer. Very compassionate sign, very nurturing, very all up in its feels, and also the sign about mothers. So you may find perhaps mother issues coming up for you in some form or another, perhaps your own or you as a mother. And the new moon, of course, is about setting goals. So maybe it's a good time to set goals around those areas. And remember also, I will add, that nurturing is not just about parenting. Like, lots of us are not parents, but still nurturing. A lot of, well, I would say most of my nurturing energy goes into my clients in this work that I'm doing here. So on that note, Monday, 2 cards have come up. One is manifestation and the other is surrender and release. And these two work together quite beautifully because we need to be able to let go before we can bring in the new. So we'll start here, surrender and release. The thing that always strikes me about this card is the beautiful imagery of this vase with a crack in it bursting forth of water. And of course, waters are all about emotions, very Cancerian there. So releasing can bring up the emotions, of course. Is there an emotional wound that needs to be released for you, something that you've been shoving under the carpet? I often find people come and see me and something will be touched on and I say, oh, I've already dealt with that. I've already moved past that. And that's usually a little bit of a warning light for me that they haven't, because what happens is they may think they have, but there is actually a deeper level of that situation that needs to be brought to the surface and faced, processed, and then released. So that may be going on for you, but it could be also something that needs to be released on a more material level, maybe clutter that needs to be got rid of from your house to free up the energy so it can move a bit better for you. Or maybe there's a habit you need to release, or a narrative. Sometimes we have these narratives in our minds about the type of person we are or we quote unquote should be. Maybe that's where the release needs to happen so that you can bring in the new. Manifestation gets a bit of a bad rap, I think, in social media. There is a perception that manifestation means you just put it out to the universe and then you just manifest it. And it's much more complicated than that, but there is some truth in that, of course. We do need to be really clear with the universe about what we want, and we do need to believe that we have the capacity to have that thing that we want. We can't be putting out a goal and then thinking, oh, I don't deserve that though, or, you know, I want to manifest a relationship, but I don't believe anyone really wants to be with me. So just be careful if you are trying to attract something that you are also repelling at the same time, inadvertently perhaps. That would be a sign you'd need to work with an energy healer on that, because we're like magnets. We can't draw in something that we're repelling at the same time. Manifestation might be a message for you to A, get clear on what you want, B, start taking steps towards it, C, believe it is even possible if there is some limiting self-belief happening at a subconscious level, perhaps, that you are vaguely aware of, that needs to be brought out into the light and dealt with. I think that's probably all you need to know about that. There's tons of information about the law of attraction online. If you are having trouble attracting something, there is an article on my website, www.onegroundedangel.com, where I talk about why aren't I getting the thing I want, basically, is the headline there, or why aren't I bringing in what I'm trying to attract. And that will look at a whole lot of issues, including some ones I've already described here. So, Tuesday. I do think also, because we've just passed the equinox, that it is a really good time to be setting goals as well. We're in the second half of the year now. It might be worth reflecting on what it was you wanted to achieve this year or what you wanted to work on. It's just in a non-judgmental way, looking at how you're going in that. Sometimes progress is much slower than what we think it should be or want it to be. Maybe it's worth reflecting on and acknowledging that you have actually come further than you were before, even though you may not yet be where you want to be, and looking at ways how you can help continue that and build momentum from that. And Tuesday's card, very appropriate for that. This is also all about blossoming. And I love the imagery here of someone like a flower, essentially with petals around them, rising up effectively. And it says, this is so appropriate, you are just getting started, so have patience with yourself and the process and do not give up. So maybe the do not give up part is all you need from this. And it does remind us also, and I talk about this a lot with my clients, we're all beginners. That's how we learn. We have to start from nowhere. And the people who are now pros and experts, they were beginners once and they probably are still learning. So our egos don't like us to do things that we're not good at or that we don't know enough about, because they think we're going to look silly or that we'll be judged. And so those may be the blocks that are getting in the way of you actually opening up to being a newbie, being a rookie and starting something new. And like I said before with the goals, you probably have made a lot of progress on this. You probably just can't see it because you're too fixated on the rest that's still needing to be done. Maybe it's about needing to celebrate your progress and recognising or reframing that as impetus to keep going. Sorry, I keep bumping the cable. I'm used to using the AirPods, but they are not working at the moment. So I'm trying to shuffle without pushing this cable all over the shop. Shuffling now for Wednesday, and I'm wondering, I don't think I've got the right card deck here. Let's see how this goes. No, I don't. Let's try that again. I'm using the Flower Therapy Oracle cards now, and they are beautiful. Okay, 2 cards here. They're quite different. I'll talk about them both. We'll start here with this one, Share the Message of Love. Oddly named, the card's really about communication. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go out there and become a mouthpiece for spirituality or as a light worker, but if that's what you're called to do, go for it. I used to get this a lot when I was, before I started this social media channel, and here I am. But that's not everybody's life purpose. So if that's not you, that's okay. This is maybe more about watching how you speak and what you write. Something we like to think about a lot when Mercury's in retrograde, which it's not now, but it's always a good idea to think about, how am I expressing myself? When we are deep in fear, we tend to react rather than respond, and that can be a knee-jerk reaction sometimes. We can be very fiery, we can be defensive, we can be on the attack instead of stopping to think, what's going on here? What do I actually need to say? This card comes up for people who tend to spend a lot of time gossiping, and I'm never going to tell you not to gossip, because I know it is a very human impulse. But if it's something that's happening on the regular, it may be part of a pattern for you where you are trying to put other people down to make yourself feel better. And if that's the case, then that underlying self-worth issue is what needs the healing. And so that focus less on the behaviour and more about what's going on underneath it that's giving rise to it. Because gossip isn't necessarily the problem. It might be a symptom of something that needs addressing, depending on where you're at. And look, we all have a rant about work, about situations, about the neighbours, relatives, in-laws, etc. And that's healthy. You've got to download. But I'm talking about when this is a repeated pattern where you keep complaining and don't take any action, or you use your words as a weapon against people to make yourself feel better. That's when there may be some action required. So yeah, be mindful of your communications and what's coming out of your mouth and through your fingertips for the keyboards, and asking yourself maybe if there's something that needs attention. Peer pressure. So if that communication one doesn't speak to you, maybe, so to speak, this one might. Peer pressure. This is about the pressure, whether overt or covert, from other people. Are you, actually let me read this, because this is probably going to speak to those of you who are making a decision. Don't let others coerce you into a decision you know in your heart what the right choice is. So if you are sort of oscillating on what to do, this card often is a good reminder that you usually already know what you want to do. And again, there's an excellent, maybe it's not excellent, but there is a comprehensive article about this on my website about why people struggle to make decisions, because often they already know what they need to do, or what they want to do. They're just scared to do it, which is a valid reason to take your time making a decision, but don't let it redirect you into the wrong path. Looking at maybe the pressure is covert. Maybe you're being outwardly pressured to do something, and this will be asking you to step back from that and figure out what is actually right for you. So this may not relate to a decision you're making. It may be just in your everyday life. Are you making choices that are overly influenced by what other people are doing, the pressure to look like everybody else? You're trying to appear like everybody else on social media. Maybe you're taking actions to, or talking like everyone else. Maybe that's what the gossip thing is all about. So let me move on now to Friday. Sometimes people, oh no, sorry, that's Thursday. Sometimes people forget we're not in high school anymore. And those old patterns of trying to suppress other people to make yourself look important or make yourself look worthy are still kind of coming to the fore. We tend to rely on our old coping mechanisms when we're being triggered in similar ways. Anyway, it's enough about that. Thursday's card here, you know what to do. I mean, again, for people making decisions, this is so apt. You already know what is right for you, and you need to look at the reasons that you are struggling to commit to that. Are you afraid of being judged? Are you afraid you're going to F it up? Are you worried that other people won't like it, or that you'll be letting down other people? That's a big one for people pleasers, and you may need to look at what's going on there. Are you what is stopping you from being comfortable from the fact that you probably will disappoint people? Glennon Doyle talks about this extensively, and her work is excellent. So her book Untamed speaks to this a lot, about how a lot of what we are called to do and what is, what makes us come alive is going to let down other people. And even though that may not be comfortable for you, your discomfort is not a reason not to do it, because no one gets to the end of their life and thinks, I wish I'd made more people happy with me, more people approve of me. It's not really how it works. And obviously we're not talking about going to extremes by deliberately provoking people and deliberately getting them offside. No, we need to be able to be driven by what's in the heart. And for those of you who are having problems with that, just even identifying what your heart wants, that is a good reason to seek out an energy healer to help you, because your intuition may be blocked by fear, energy you've picked up from other people, all sorts of conditioning that needs some help to clear before you can actually hear your intuition. Because our angels are always talking to us, our spirit guides are always talking to us, but if we don't listen, they start to tune down the volume a little bit more, and it's harder for us to hear because we're not connecting there. So that connection definitely could do with being enhanced. Now, which card deck have I not used here? Let me go to this one. One of my favourites, the Angel Therapy Oracle cards. Awkward shuffling, but we got the result. Crown Chakra. For those of you who are not familiar with chakras or chakras, I use the two words interchangeably. I know many of you will be, but my intention is the grounded spiritual voice. My intention is always to make sure that people can understand in a realistic way spiritual messages. So I always explain things in case people are new, or they are coming from a background where this stuff hasn't been part of their learnings. So basically chakras are like intersections in the highways of your energy. It travels through highways, goes through intersections in those, or circles. I think it's what they call them in South Africa. I learned recently. We call them intersections in Australia or New Zealand. The thing is that if you get a block in an intersection, say someone's going the wrong way, or someone's standing, there's a truck falling over, the traffic can't get through. And it's a bit like that with our energy. The energy can't get through as easily, or not as much of it, or it's out of balance when we've got some sort of block going on there. And that has an impact on certain areas of our lives, of our well-being, of our physical health, even in some cases. Now, the crown chakra is the seventh one. There are 7 major ones that we talk about in energy healing, but there are hundreds more that we don't necessarily address. These are the main ones, and this is all about, right up here at the crown, the head, what's going on in the head, mindset. This is where we can get blocked negative thought patterns happening from blockages in the crown chakra. It's also our way of connecting with the divine. So it can be harder for us to connect with the divine, and perhaps that feeds into what I said earlier about struggling to connect with your intuition. And maybe that's what's going on there for you. I will post an article about the crown chakra when this goes up it's one, probably of the 7, the one that's least understood, because it's a little bit tricky to distinguish it from the third eye, which is around here, which is also about receiving messages from the divine, but this is more about a two-way street of communication. It can also be associated with the way we sleep. If we're having trouble sleeping, sometimes that can be influenced by the crown chakra, although the reasons we don't sleep can be quite complicated. So I guess that if the chakra stuff doesn't resonate with you, all you need to take from this is what's going on in my head right now. Now, a lot of meditation teachers will talk about how meditation is a way of getting control of our minds. And I agree to a point. What I would say is there's so much going on in the mind, we're never going to be in complete control of it. So the aim is just to notice when it is leading you down a track that you don't want to go down. We're always going to have negative thoughts. It is not possible to be positive all the time. And if you are trying to shoot for that goal, you're probably going to end up extremely frustrated and feeling like a bit of a failure. Instead, what I do, or I advise people to do, like if I'm noticing a negative thought, I try to just let it go. I don't beat myself up for it, or worry about what this means for me, or label myself as a bad person. I don't try not to use good or bad in terms of labeling people at all, in fact. What I do is I will clear the energy of it if it is something that I think or suspect could attract a negative outcome. And you can do that by just saying Control-Alt-Delete, or thinking Control-Alt-Delete. But if I forget to do that, it's okay, because the thoughts will just go. And it's only when you're putting a lot of focus on them that they can become problematic. And that's when they start to gather steam and you start to get pulled down into this negative thought spiral. For example, the thought might be, oh, my friend hasn't contacted me for a couple of days. And that might start to build to the point where you're going, they're upset with me, or they don't like me anymore. What did I do to them? And then you start overthinking what you might have said to them that might have upset them. And then you go down even further and think, well, of course they don't like me. I'm a horrible person. And then you continue down until you get to this point where you're like, no one likes me. I'm all on my own. I'm worthless. These are just examples. I'm just trying to show you how things can spiral when you go down and down and down. I'm just clearing the energy from that too. Because whereas if you had sort of intercepted that thought a little bit earlier and just distracted yourself and started thinking about something else, you might not have gone down that spiral because you're not giving focus to the thought. So maybe that's a very long-winded explanation. What I mean is just noticing where your thoughts are going and whether that is something that you want to address. Maybe you want to work with a mindset coach if there is something there that needs your action or your attention. So shuffling now for Saturday. I really did go off on a tangent there. Trusting your intuition. Love the lock analogy here. And the key, of course, would be your intuition. Often people get confused between their intuition and an instinct. Instincts are often driven by fear. Instinct will be, I need to hurry up and say something, or no, or people will think I'm stupid. Whereas intuition might be saying, this is in a work sort of meeting scenario, I guess. The intuition might be saying, let's just take everything in and then we'll figure it out later, or no one's even thinking about you, don't worry about it. No one's even worrying about what you look like. So you're just trusting your intuition. As I say, it can get blocked. There may be something energetic that needs clearing so that you can do a better job of that. Meditation, as I said earlier, can be hugely helpful. I struggle with it sometimes. There are times when I just forget to do it or get out of the habit of doing it, and I do notice a difference. The times when I am meditating regularly, it is easier for me to have a better hold on my thoughts, and it's easier for me to hear my intuition because the act of meditation just turns down the volume on everything else that's going around or going on up here. So that might help. People find being creative is a wonderful way to connect with their intuition as well, because all of the ideas that are coming through that tap are likely guided by your intuition. And you're having Elizabeth Gilbert talks about how you're having a conversation with the divine when you expand on those and express them. Sunday's message here, beginnings, a beautiful image for those of us here in the southern hemisphere who are in the depths of winter. Not that we can really complain in this part of the world, it's not that cold. But the trees are certainly losing their leaves and have lost their leaves. And of course, that is a letting go of what is dead, what is no longer right, so that new things can grow, which is a beautiful analogy for how we need to approach the seasons in our lives. Not necessarily coinciding with nature's seasons, but we are always going through cycles of renewal, of letting go, of stepping into something new and growing. So maybe that's what you need to think about there, is cherishing those cycles, honouring them, and being aware that wherever you are right now is not where you're going to stay. It's leading you to something else. So the more you can be in flow with that process and trust it, the easier things will work for you, the less resistance you'll have. Not always easy, I know. And of course, that card doesn't acknowledge the fact that sometimes those endings are incredibly painful. And if that's you, I hope you've got a lot of help and support to help you through that. And maybe knowing that there is a new beginning coming will give you a little bit of hope there to steer you through. But anyway, whatever's going on for you, even if you're not feeling like you need to let go of anything at the moment, or you're not feeling like you're ready for a new beginning, just knowing or remembering that those cycles happen might make you or help you open up a little bit more next time you're in that sort of cycle of letting go and opening up to the unknown, which can be a little bit scary for us humans. We like to know exactly how things are going to go, and it's just not the deal, unfortunately. And maybe it is, for those of you who do know you have a new beginning coming, or you're in the middle of it, just being at peace with that process and opening up to it. Excuse me. Now, a lot is going on. I think this blossoming and the beginnings are very closely related. And obviously nature is used as a strong metaphor there too. The surrender and release and manifesting are all feeding into that as well. We have lots of messages here about trusting our intuition in terms of making decisions, this card here, and maybe noticing whether your mindset is serving that process or hindering it as well. So there's a lot here coming through this week, but all very hopeful, as so many of these cards generally are. And even the messages that are challenging, usually there's something good within that. We let go of the challenging situation, but we make space for something else to come through. So I hope that has helped you wherever you're at in your life, whatever part of the cycle. And don't forget, if you do need some help or some guidance from me, you can reach out to me and make a session, an appointment for a session. My website is www.onegroundedangel.com. And also you can follow me on Instagram at One Grounded Angel. My Facebook page is One Grounded Angel. If you didn't see the interview with me last week, where the wonderful Hannah McIntyre from the podcast Mediumship Matters, she interviewed me, you might see that. It was done as a Facebook Live as well, so you can head to my Facebook page and check that out. There is a link still available in my Instagram bio. If you go to my Instagram account and go to the bio there, you get a whole series of options, and one of them will be to watch that interview. But it will be released as a podcast soon, so I'll give you the heads up when that happens. So thanks for being here, everybody. Have a great week. Look forward to the new moon for some new beginnings, and I'll talk to you next week. Take care.